This podcast is sponsored by Kadan Kadan. Kadan Kadan is a new groupage app that allows you to share space within a shipping container so that you can save costs when it comes to your logistics and transportation. Visit kadankadan.com to learn more or visit the Instagram page Kadan Kadan Official. This podcast is sponsored by Kadan Kadan. Good day, everyone. This is Malobi Ogbechi from the Kadan Kadan podcast. And today I'm joined by Gregory, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his business out of Zambia. Our first guest from Zambia, which I'm very looking forward to hearing about that market and things going on there. But yeah, thank you very much for coming onto the show. Gregory, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, Malabi. How are you doing yourself?
I'm doing very well. Very well, thank you.
Fantastic.
Awesome. So, Gregory, you're from Zambia. We were just talking offline before we started the recording. You spent some time in Botswana in your childhood. So, can you tell us a little bit about your background in terms of where you grew up, who you are really, and what your company is and what you do?
Yeah. Firstly, I think thank you for having me as a guest on the podcast. I appreciate the opportunity. Um, my name is Gregory Chama. I'm Zambian. I currently reside in Lusaka, Zambia. I was born in the northern part of Zambia in the 80s, particularly in 1983. And when I was 7 years old, our entire family migrated to Botswana. So basically, my dad, he was a teacher, a high school teacher, and he got a job as an English teacher in Botswana. That was in 1990. Yeah. So we moved to Botswana in 1990, and I basically spent my childhood there. I basically grew up there, and I did my grade 1 to grade 12 there. And then in 2005, after I'd completed my high school, I came back to Zambia for for college. And I came back for college. I enrolled at the Zambia Accountancy Studies Center, and I did what they call the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, ACCA. Of course, it was never really my first choice. I'm basically a science guy, and I'd always wanted to do engineering. But of course, I couldn't enroll into engineering school at the University of the Copperbelt, which is one of the universities here in Zambia. So I had to, rather than wait for the following year, I had to just settle for, my second choice, which was accounting studies. So I enrolled at the accountancy center in Lusaka here in 2005, and I completed my accountancy studies in 2007. Okay. Yeah, so I've been in Zambia since 2005. And when I completed in 2007, I of course got my first my first and last job actually as an assistant accountant at some logistics company here in Osaka. I worked there for about two and a half years, and then whilst I was there, I actually set up my first company, which is basically a mobility solutions company. It's called City Drive, and it deals basically in mobility solutions. We do car rental, we do courier, we do taxi. Yeah. So whilst I was still there, I set up that first company, and after 2.5 years, I basically resigned and went to run the company full time. Okay. And it's quite funny because when I went into business, some of the dots actually, started connecting, because I actually realized that the accountancy studies which I did earlier on, despite it being my second choice, it turned out to be extremely valuable in my running of the first businesses, even the current business which I run, because I was equipped with accounting knowledge, financial knowledge, which is extremely crucial in running a successful business. So yeah, looking back, I actually realized that it was kind of providential that I actually did accounting, because in a way I feel like if I had not done it, perhaps my story as an entrepreneur would slightly be different, right? Yeah, but I can attribute the strong success I've had so far in entrepreneurship to the financial skills and knowledge I acquired through my accountancy studies earlier on. Yeah. So yeah. So 2009, I set up the first business, and it's been running ever since. It's now 14 years old now. And in 2001, 2020 actually, 2020, mid 2020, at the peak of the COVID pandemic, right? I set up the second business, okay, which is basically Budding Foods. It's called Budding Foods. Yeah. And what Budding Foods is basically a health and lifestyle business, right? And what we're trying to do is basically to promote, good health through good nutrition and good habits. And the story of the company is based on my personal experience, because what happened is that in 2013, I basically became a vegetarian, right? So I discarded meat products, and I basically just started subsisting on plant-based foods, basically. Yeah. And what happened is that I encountered two main problems when I switched to a plant-based diet. The first problem I encountered was that I didn't really have a reliable source of plant-based foods. Okay, and because when you switch to a vegetarian diet, it's very important that you ensure that you have a balanced diet, right? And having a balanced diet means that you need to source for the right foods. That should actually give you all the nutrients that you need. Otherwise, you might actually become malnourished. So that was the first problem that I actually encountered. I didn't really know, of a reliable and affordable source and place where I could get these foods. That was the first problem. The second problem was that I didn't have much knowledge and information, to do with, a vegetarian diet, plant-based foods, because knowledge is power, right? And especially for a vegetarian diet, it's very important that you know your foods, the nutritional contents of your food, so that even as you combine them to make a meal, you're actually having a balanced meal, right? So that information was also lacking. And it was quite a struggle actually in the early months and years. And what I also noticed is that other people who were making a similar switch were facing a similar problem. Yeah, they were facing similar problems. So I then realized that there's actually a gap in the market here, and perhaps we can provide a solution. Okay. So Budding Foods was actually a response towards the problems that I faced personally in my switch and the problems that other people who are making a similar switch are facing. Okay. So it was basically a solution to those two problems. So in 2020, at the peak of the COVID pandemic, we set up Budding Foods. Because also what happened, during the pandemic was that people were becoming, health conscious, right? They wanted to eat healthy. They wanted to ensure that they've got a strong, immune system to beat, the virus. So there was a lot of talk about, ensuring that you're having, good food, and you, having, the right food so that you can have, a healthy body, because a healthy body was everything, because people who had very strong immune system then, um, they were not that much affected when it came to the virus. Yeah. So a lot of people started, exploring ways in which they can, live healthy, have a much healthier body. And one of the answers, that was coming up constantly is, of course, having subsisting mostly on a plant-based diet. Because I mean, it's been proven time and time and again that a plant-based diet, or a diet that is predominantly a plant-based diet, is good for maintaining good health, a very strong immune system. And so a lot of people became very health conscious. And so during that time, we set up Budding Foods, right? And when we set it up at first, what we did is that we started basically with the basic foods, right? And mostly we started with, supplying, things like millet meal, cassava meal, things like, the health porridges. Because of course at that time, we needed to start somewhere because we didn't have much capital to, just, grow exponentially fast. So we had to start with the basics. And then when we started at that point, we received extremely good feedback from customers, from the people. And over time, we introduced, other products as well. So as we speak now, we've got a line of 16 products, and they're divided in about 4 categories, right? So the first category, basically what we call our seeds. So we've got quinoa, we've got sesame seeds, we've got chia seeds, and then we also got flaxseed, right? And then the second category is what we call our grains. So we've got the chickpeas, we've got lentils, we've got black-eyed peas, yeah. And then we also have got the low-carb, gluten-free flours. That's the third category of our foods. So here we've got products like almond flour, we've got chickpea flour, we've got quinoa flour, we've got coconut flour, and rice flour. Okay. And then we also have the fourth category, which is the plant-based cheese. In this case, we're talking about tofu. So we make and supply tofu as well. As you know, tofu is extremely critical for as a protein supplement if you go on a vegetarian diet. So we do have tofu as well. Then also we do have the fifth category is the multi-purpose oils. Okay. which in this case is coconut oil. And the reason why we've included coconut oil in our products is because coconut oil tend to be a much healthier oil when used for cooking compared to the ordinary oil we have, the sunflower oil and the others. So yeah, so the multi-purpose oil, that is the coconut oil. So yeah, those are the 5 categories of products we have. And they're designed in that way because when you look at all those categories, right? If you have all those categories of products, of our products in your pantry, right? Then you basically have got a balanced diet. You'll be able to have a balanced diet in your foods, in your meals, right? So that is basically on the product side. So that range of products basically, of course, when you look at the 2 problems that we actually identified and which I faced also in the beginning, I meant basically to give people access to enough products which they can actually subsist on when they switch to a vegetarian diet, or perhaps even those who want to incorporate more of plant-based foods in their diet. You might still keep your meat, you keep your chicken, your sausage, but if you want to incorporate more of the plant-based foods in your diet, budding foods basically is the go-to place. Okay. And then also what we do also is that we provide sensitization and basically just education, right? General education about plant-based foods. And how you need to combine them so that you have a plant, balanced diet. So if you go to like our website right now, you also find that kind of information, but you also find recipes, right? So what we do also is that we put recipes on our site constantly of various plant-based meals, of how you can use even our products to prepare very nice, delicious plant-based foods which you can enjoy with your family. So that is meant to actually empower people, educate people, right, about this kind of lifestyle and how the kind of health benefits they can also have through this kind of foods, right? So yeah, when we started, of course, we're mostly selling directly to customers, so it was more of a B2C kind of business, okay? But then what then happened is that we also introduced B2B, so we grew our B2B market quite fast, and currently it's much bigger than the B2C. So the B2B market is whereby we distribute our products in the major leading supermarkets. Yeah, so we are currently in Zambia, we are basically in all the leading supermarkets, and we are currently in close to 60 stores at the moment, and we're
Nice.
growing. Yeah.
Wow. This is great. Man, you dropped a lot of information. I love when this happens because it's like I'm thinking of a question and then you just answer it in the next sentence. So it's really good. You've actually touched on a lot of the things I wanted to ask. But firstly, I wanted to understand. You mentioned quite a few different categories of products, and I wanted to know if any of that is being produced or processed by your company. Some of it is imported. Like, what's the kind of mix of stuff that's homegrown? I don't even know if you can grow some of these things in Zambia, so I'm
Yeah.
keen to know.
So in terms of the raw materials, it's basically a combination of both, which come from outside and others actually sourced from within. because there's some products which we don't grow in Zambia. So when you look at products like chickpeas, lentils, um, almonds, we don't grow those in Zambia, so we actually import them from outside. Then of course the other ones like quinoa, we grow that in Zambia. Chia seed, we grow that in Zambia. Sesame seed, we grow that in Zambia. Soybeans, which we use to make tofu, we also grow that in Zambia. It's basically a combination, right? I think I
Wow.
should say, I think the ratio is maybe 60% are sourced locally and then 40% are sourced outside. And then in terms of processing, because of course some of the products are actually processed, others we just repackage them in with with our brand. Then we sell and distribute. But for all the products that we what that needs processing, we actually process those ourselves. We process and we make our own tofu. We process and we make all our gluten-free low carb flours. And then we also process and make our coconut oil. Yeah.
Wow, wow, that's so interesting. So, did you say that you grow quinoa in Zambia?
Yes, we grow quinoa in Zambia.
Oh, wow, I did not know that, and I'm sure people that are listening right now would probably not know that as well. So that's very interesting to know that I can source quinoa from Africa as well. I had no idea.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. And then also when you first started talking about, your businesses, you said you had another business and then you did budding foods. Are you doing both of them at the same time? And if so, what's that like managing two companies at the same time? Or are you just focused on budding for now?
Yeah. So currently I'm running both. Because obviously the first one, of course, has been around for some time. It's about 14 years now. It's much more established, much more stable. So though I'm still the CEO there, I've got a general manager, who's able to basically run the business even when I'm not there, when I need to focus more on budding foods. So budding foods, it's relatively new. We're just about 3, 4 years old. And I think it's the one which demands most of my attention. So yeah, I do split my time between the two. I think in the ratio of maybe 70% budding foods, 30% city drive, the other business. And yeah, it's not easy to run two businesses. But I've always believed that, like Barack Obama, once said, entrepreneurs should learn to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's possible to multitask and juggle between the two, and I mean, it comes with its own challenges, but I think so far I've been able to manage quite well.
Well said. And the thing is, in this situation as well, is that you've already built like a system for the first business. It's been going on for a while, and that's for the people that are doing multiple businesses. What I found is that they tend to do one and get it to a certain level before they start doing another one, rather than trying to start them all around the same time. So that makes a lot of
Exactly,
sense. You also
exactly.
mentioned earlier that you spent some of your childhood in Zambia, sorry, in Botswana. I know it was a while ago, but for people listening that might not be familiar with that part of Africa, can you tell us a little bit about the differences between Zambia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, those countries on a very top line level, business level, just so that people can wrap their heads around those different countries.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I grew up in Botswana. I was there. I spent the majority of my childhood there, and I've been to Zimbabwe because both these two countries we share a border with them. Zambia shares a border with them. Uh, Botswana is just on the southern side of Zambia. Zimbabwe is on the southeast of Zambia. That's where we share a border. So of course, cultures are different. Um, when you look at Botswana, there, of course, I mean, they've got a very, very high GDP per capita. Um, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's over $4,000. Um, Zambia and Zimbabwe, slightly lower GDP per capita, I think in the range of between $2,000 and $2,500. So, yeah, the purchasing power of the people in Botswana is much, much higher. And though the population is smaller, because they only have about 2.5 million people. Zambia's got about 20 million people. Zimbabwe's got about, I think, 15. Because when you look at the population of Botswana, the entire country is the population of Lusaka City in Zambia. So the population is quite small, but the GDP per capita of the people is much higher. So the purchasing power is much higher. And in terms of business, yeah, I think each country has got its own challenges in terms of the ease of doing business and its own unique advantages. And I think depending on what you're selling, the kind of business you are involved in, um, so you find that perhaps maybe businesses which tend to require a very large population tend to do better in uh, in in Zambia and Zimbabwe because of their population, and then businesses which require, especially luxury goods, right, where you require perhaps maybe a broader middle class with good purchasing power, tends to do extremely well in places like Botswana. Yeah. Um, and then I think both countries, in terms of entrepreneurship, setting up a business, it's much it's not like in Zambia, right? Setting up a business is pretty straightforward. Like registering a company, it will take you about approximately, I think, 10 days, maybe 8 days maximum, and you'll be able to get all your documentation plus, a bank account. Botswana, slightly fewer days. Zimbabwe, maybe slightly longer, maybe just maybe 10 days, 10 to 15 days. I'm not sure. Yeah. So the ease of doing business in each country varies. And then also when you look at Botswana tends to be, there's some sectors which are, kind of reserved for only citizens, right? So they've got this protectionism policy. Um, so, they've reserved some sectors of the economy to their people so that, they help their people. When it comes to Zambia, it's basically different. Here, the government doesn't really have, that policy. Here, what really counts is your capacity to actually, have the capital to set up a business in whatever sector you are in, whether you are, a citizen or a non-citizen. Yeah. So I think that's really the kind of comparison I think I'd make between the three countries.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Uh, Another thing that you mentioned is that you mentioned that your company has a bit of lifestyle in it. You mentioned that you do some sort of like education around the products and sensitization. So can you tell me a little bit about, some of the challenges that you might have encountered, maybe whether it's to do with introducing certain products to people, maybe they're not familiar with it, or maybe opening people up to concepts like vegetarianism. Like what is
Mhm.
the kind of education piece? What have been the difficulties on that end, if there are any?
Yeah. So in over the past years when we've been running the business, of course, it being Africa, I mean, Zambia, we are basically in Africa, and one of the things that we actually realized was that people love their meat. People love People love their chicken, people love their sausage, people love their beef, people love their steak, right? And because I mean, even like for me, right? I never in at any point did I ever think that I would actually become a vegetarian, because I mean I used to love, I love my T-bone, right? I loved my um, I love my chicken, I love my goat meat, and but then you see when I switched to this diet, I actually realized that a lot of people are basically in the position in which I was. you know, yeah, same position, right? People just love their meat, and they just don't want to let go. At times, even when they're actually advised by their doctor that look, you need to either completely cut down on your meat, your chicken, or reduce. It's rare that they would actually hit to that, because they just can't do away with their steak. So we actually realized that we need to understand people from that perspective, right? And but then you see, one of the things that we noticed was that when you're living in the village, right? Like even for me, like the village where I come from, the people in the village have got a completely different diet to the people in the cities. And what we realized is that the diet of a lot of people in the village is predominantly plant-based. Okay, well, especially in Zambia, people in the villages in Zambia get to eat beef and chicken, once in a while. Mostly, most of their foods on a daily basis is mostly plant-based. All right. So it's a situation whereby the people in the village, they predominantly subsist on plant-based foods. Okay. So and the reason for this, after the research we did, is that what we discovered was that even going back all the way back to back in the days, even before the coming of colonialism, right? A lot of people in Africa, even in Zambia, were subsisting predominantly on a plant-based diet. So the African diet, in other words, is predominantly plant-based. Okay. But of course, with the coming of colonialism, what happened was that there was the introduction of mostly the Western diet, yeah? And when you look at when you study carefully the Western diet, there's a lot of meat products. Okay, there's a lot of beef, there's a lot of meat, there's a lot of chicken, there's a lot of poultry, a lot of animal products there, right? So part of our education, okay, in basically helping people understand where we're coming from as a business, was to remind them about the original African diet. Okay, and in fact, part of the reason why in our present time, why we're having a lot of lifestyle diseases, right? You talk about diabetes, talk about arthritis, talk about hypertension or BP. To a very large extent, These lifestyle diseases are actually influenced by the diet that people are actually subsisting on, and it's been proven that a diet which is heavy on animal products, okay, makes people susceptible to actually developing lifestyle diseases. Okay, so part of the education was basically to remind people of these facts, right? Firstly, to remind them of the original African diet, yeah, and of course the benefits that you can actually get from subsisting on a plant-based diet, and how a plant-based diet can actually help you to reduce significantly your risks of contracting lifestyle diseases. Okay, so we really tackled it from that background, and of course that's why even when you look at the products that we have, they've been designed in such a way that they are meant to help people who are trying to switch completely or incorporate more of plant-based foods in their diet, to have a balanced meal, to have a balanced diet, so that they'll be able to have very healthy bodies.
Well said, and you're very right. Even in Nigeria, when you really objectively look at things, most of it is plant based, to be honest. And when I grew up in
Yeah.
Nigeria, the meat would just be a little addition to the meal. It would just be you
Yeah.
know, just a little bit extra. It wasn't the main, you know, thing. It was like a treat. So whereas nowadays, especially with Western diet, is like the chicken is the main thing, the turkey,
Hmm.
whatever. So
Yeah.
it is if we look at it, it is a lot of influence from outside of Africa that making people believe that it's not what it is. But I appreciate you explaining it in that way because I think it'll be easier for people to understand. So thank you so much for that, and this has been a great conversation because you just answered so many things that I thought about asking right before I was going to ask them. So I guess the last thing I would ask you is what have you got planned for the future of budding foods? Where do you see yourself doing in the next, let's say, a few years or so?
Yeah. It's good that I'm actually talking to you as a Nigerian, because I follow. I'm a big fan of Aliko Dangote, and I noticed recently that he set up a refinery in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
which was a very huge development. And I think for me as an African, it's an extremely big deal, because we need to industrialize Africa. And what he has done is really, part of the plot that we need to continue playing as Africans to industrialize our continent. Because now, Nigeria's got the capacity now to, refine crude oil into, finished products. So for me, the plans I have for budding foods really is to equally industrialize on a large scale. Of course, from a food perspective, and we want to be the go-to platform, whereby we are able to produce a wide range of products than we actually even producing now on an extremely large scale, so that we can actually help feed not only people within Zambia, but people within the region, basically across the continent. I believe strongly that a plant-based diet, yeah, especially to Africans, and just for everyone around the world, your health is your wealth, right? And if we are going to industrialize as Africans, and build wealth for ourselves, and for our families, and for our future generations, it's extremely important that we live healthy lives. And the food we actually take, plays an extremely big role in how healthy we can be, right? And for me, that's really the gap that I'm trying to fill here. Even as we industrialize and as we get more organized as Africans, we need to ensure that we're eating well, we're eating good food, we're healthy. Because if we're not healthy, then we won't be able to do really anything. And even the African Renaissance that we're looking forward to may not even materialize. So we are setting up budding foods as not only a business but as a tool that we can use to actually help Zambians and Africans out there to live healthier lives, be able to produce a lot of plant-based foods, various products, healthy foods on an industrial scale, and feed as much as of our people as possible. Right now, we only distribute our products within Zambia, but our plans for the next 5 years is basically to cover the whole of Southern Africa. Then thereafter, then we can go beyond Southern Africa. Yeah.
Wow, wow, well said. And I wish you the best of luck with the rest of your venture and your expansion into the rest of Africa. You guys are really doing something special here, and encouraging people to embrace healthier, natural vegetarian foods is a good cause. So before we head out, I'll leave you to please share your social medias and websites. Any way people can reach out to you if they want to in terms of partnerships and business opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can reach us out on our website. Just visit us on buddingfoods.com. Okay. We are also on Facebook. We're also on LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram. Just search for Budding Foods. You'll be able to find us there. Yeah, and then you can also reach out to us via email, info@buddingfoods.com, or even my personal email, greg@buddingfoods.com.
Wow, thank you so much, Greg. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's been a great conversation, and I wish you the best of luck with your business. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Malawi. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, bye.